In today's video, I'm going to be sharing how we did $10,684,827 in 62 days. I'm going to be walking through the acquisition funnels and how these all connect, and then we're going to go department by department and go through the different levers of plans that we had and then what we actually did within these departments in order to hit 10 million in 2 months. All right. We're also going to walk through the math on how we planned the month prior, breaking down things like AOV, close rates, how many reps you needed for that, the different breakers in the acquisition funnels. And this will be fun because some of you guys love the math. Last year, we did 30 million in this info coaching business. We've now crossed over 90 million actually in total cash collected, and I'm not selling anything. Everything on the channel is to share what did work, didn't work, and what we are actively doing, all with the goal of finding top talent, opportunities, and networking with cool people building cool stuff. All right, so let's get into it. Now, to start, we've got our funnels. So we're going to go through some acquisition here. So this will all sit really in this marketing section. Technically, tech underlies all of it. Sales is here, and then fulfillment and ops are not pictured. But for the beginning, we were about 95% paid acquisition. It's a little bit more. We're running heavy on Meta, Google as well, but mostly on Meta. So if we go down here, these are all technically the same type of funnel. These are all going to be VSL opt-in funnels, but we are running 4 wide right now on this type of acquisition funnel. Now, the different colors are actually different brand faces. So we have one brand face that has 2 of them, and then we have 2 others individual, right? So like brand face 1, brand face 2, brand face 3, brand face 3, right? These are different opt-in pages, different people, and then different messaging patterns across each of them that hit different parts of the market. They are then all going to VSL pages. All of these pages are going to be the classic VSL page. So post opt-in, we're just gathering name, email, come into a VSL page with delayed pop-up for an application. And then there's about 1,000,001 contextual email flows that are following, and they bridge together in the application. Okay. Now, from the application, they're going to go through a quality router, that is going to be dependent on application questions, stuff like that. Then they're going to get fed into either a new availability router, which is like basically looking at how many spots are available dependent on whose calendar they're looking at, which is like some custom setup we have. And then based on the quality and based on the availability, they're going to go to a booking page that is like the top reps. They're going to go to a DQ booking page. And if there is no room across those on the DQ pages, it's going to go to a DQ low ticket bridge page. Okay. So we can still monetize the traffic and still push it through. We're not just burning cash. Now, normal booking flow, land on a success page, go follow Jeremy Haynes, watch all his stuff. He talks about this flow extensively. He actually talks about this flow, if I'm being honest, but his success page and stuff that is on the backend sales systems, he just goes so hard on this. So you're going to have the same thing for the DQ. Normal is going to fire the pixel. This is not. They are then going to get an ad confirmation call. I used to have this on here called as a setter call. I'm calling it an ad confirmation call now. So this is one of these levers that we'll talk about in here that is a big booster to show rates. Okay, you're going to have the same thing here. They're then going to talk to a closer, and then they are going to land on a terms page. That's going to, once they purchase, and that's going to fire pixel and all that stuff. All right, so that is our VSL opt-in funnels. 3 minutes and 20 seconds in. I'm doing good, all right? I'm going to try and keep this concise for you guys. Next, you're going to have the, I clicked something. Next, we're going to have the DTA funnel. So there's going to be same traffic sources, except this is going to a DTA page. DTA is headline, VSL, application. Application either cookied or delayed or whatever you want to call it, or not. Called the same page, okay? So we run one of these. I'm caffeinated and nicotined. We run one of these, and it mainly functions as retargeting. This is still a majority of the cold, but it essentially connects in here. The application pops on page, so it doesn't go to its own dedicated page. So it's truly a one-pager, bump, quality, availability, and then one of the routers, okay? That's that. And then last but not least is Meta and Google going to low ticket front end sales page. So there's going to be a low ticket ascension funnel with the goal of 2-step right here. So basically you see these all over the internet, especially in the IM industry or the biz op industry, where it is going to be like name, email, maybe phone number. They opt in to start their checkout, and then they actually go to a secondary page for checkout. It allows you to do a lot of contextual stuff. I didn't talk about that up here, but every single one of these has contextual flows beyond inside of each of them that are pushing them back to the next step. So checkout page will go here, and then post-purchase, instead of having OTOs and AOV boosters and all the things, it actually brings them to book, and they book like an onboarding call They book an onboarding call with a setter. On the page, they technically land on a thank you page and fill out application, but they are pressed to book a call, and they actually have an onboarding call. This is a setting function call that then pushes them to a closer call, okay? These are going to have higher show rates, a little bit less throughput, but that's kind of the idea, is that you're bringing more quality through. They show at a higher rate. They close at a higher rate. It's just, can you get the throughput through here where the economics make sense to get through here? All right, and something else that was layered into here was actually just, I'm calling it S1, but it's basically these two blended. So it's a single page, a sales page, which is just kind of your classic, I don't want to say TSL, but like kind of TSL with a VSL on top. It's just like one long form page with checkout in one page. All right, so that is the web. Any questions? Just kidding, you guys are watching. All right, so when we came into the month, we were coming into, what is that, July and August are these months right here. So this is 10 million, or this number right here, this 10 million, was July and August. So it was 5.4 and then like 5.2. So July, then August. We had a bet to win. So we were pulling out all the stops because we wanted to see if we could do it and we wanted to win a bet. So with that being said, for marketing, we mapped this out as a C-suite prior and said, what can we do in the marketing land in order to hit this goal? And we said, let's just hammer it. So let's go into low ticket scale. Let's overspend into this and overspend into all these different funnels. Yes, we're trying to still optimize for cost per call. Yes, we're still trying to optimize for quality. We're trying to do all those things, but why not really press the hammer on spend and not have CPA as the main function? Because we want to win a bet and we want to just like pump a bunch of volume. So our goals were around low ticket scale. So pushing into spend on here, overspending into the lead funnels is what I meant by this. And I'm calling these lead funnels and these buyer funnels. These are lead funnels. These are buyer funnels because these have buyers that pop out on the other end. These are leads before they buy back end. Okay. Show rates, big function in there. We were dancing at some lower show rates. So we were like, if we can just pull that lever in itself, we'll get more calls on calendar and you'll have more at bats. Personalized post booking would come into that show rate, and then automations that we can build into that post booking as well. So marketing's real main goal here, honestly, was just fill calendars. Okay, is the simplest way to say this, because we were like, if we can just get more at bats on this. At that time, we were doing 2.8 to 3, call it, in new, and we're like, let's just hammer it on the front. Now in tech, this is kind of like side tangent a little, but this is just what was actually happening. It was like all hands on deck. There were payments flying everywhere. We had for the first time, I think I talked about that over here, but we for the first time allowed like multi payments. We only would let people use credit card through one processor, through one order form, because we were just like stingy about the data. And instead we're like, let it fly. Like they can send this, or they can do it through this or this. So it was all on hands deck. All hands on deck, and then we pushed into source of truth. So this is like a big project that kicked off where now we're going full custom data lakes. We hired into this, so now we have 2 new people in the tech division, which is amazing, and that came from a lot of sourcing from X and other place. So shout out you guys who are likely watching this. All right, now sales, as you can see, biggest box here. Levers to start for setters. To start with sales, we had a new chief of sales come on like right before this, and then we had some shifts in other management that occurred within there. So this was like, foundationally a little, like we had to be rebuilt a little bit. Chief of sales is a superstar, absolutely is rocking this. So for us, within the setters, it was speed to lead. And what we mean by speed to lead is mainly this bucket and this bucket. Okay, so ad confirm. So the second someone books, are we doing speed to lead, dialing, confirming, this is a Zoom call, this is this time zone, are you prepared to XYZ, all that kind of stuff. So that is number 1 here. And then also speed to lead on those app no books. Okay, those are kind of like the 2 core pockets. There's like 50 buckets, but those are the core. Inbound line is something we tested and then we actually X-nayed, but this is what we thought on the way in. Hot lists, where can they work with in there inside some of these past hot lists? Because we have all these different buckets and all these different ones that like sort themselves based on when they were last on page and when they're on all this kind of stuff. They're just not really being used. Availability was in response to updating availability around the onboarding call schedule so that when we did this low ticket scale, we had the booking availability for setter around on the onboarding calls. And then hiring into this. So just hiring into this bucket with quality setters and just continuing to grow in that division, right? So just a reminder, we did not have setters until like right here. So we didn't have setters for like 76 million. So it's kind of like a new frontier for us. But again, chief of sales is a rock star and he understands this game well. Closer division. For closers, it was just hiring. We had X amount of reps at the time. When I do this math over here that I'll share with you in a minute, it was like we need more of that. So I actually should probably I'll bring up the math right after this, so stay tuned because the math is fun. But we need to hire into this in order to have the amount of bodies to do. We need to have more reps so we could have more availability, which is this next one, and then we could have more at-bats because we were now just going to fill calendars and do it a little sloppily on purpose so that we could just like rapid test with the intention and knowing that we might be a little bit less profitable from the marketing spend, okay, and slippage. Weekend availability. This was a big one. We charted out basically all the weekend days over the last like 2 or 3 months, and it was like a 40% less in cash collected strictly because of availability. So it has the twofold when you have less weekend availability because you're spending into it because you're not going to decrease spend for 2 days. So you're basically spending, then there's no availability or way less, like 50% less availability or 30% less. You're burning cash and you're accepting less cash. So it's a double whammy in terms of profitability and like ad account metrics and all that kind of stuff. So we're like, let's just amp up weekend availability. Chief of sales came in here and basically structured out the new availability schedule or schedules of hours. Pipeline special. How can we do something where we can work the pipelines and have them get over the line by, incentivizing pipeline basically. So what kind of special can we run for the pipeline? Weekly competition. So that was more of like an incentivizing internal to the sales team, to the closing team. Competitions around first, second, third. In the last week, we actually did a group one. So once they hit it, like a group metric of total cash collected in a week, then there was a competition for like first, second, and third, but they all as a team had to hit a certain cash collected goal in order for it to even trigger. So that was kind of a fun one, and some other fun ones that we did like every single week. Financing, we rolled out new financing options. That's why when I showed this, I'm like, oh, we're actually at more, is because now we use another processor for the first time. So we have multi-processor that has financing as well. And then customized payment links. So this like allows them to accept different cash in different ways. That's way easier that we did not offer prior. So looking at it, we're like, this is how we can hammer it in marketing. Here's how we can make sure that it doesn't break in tech. Here's what we're going to hammer in sales and just overfill. Now fulfillment. This was actually the saving grace of how we got over this and was the big push because not a majority, but a big chunk of the both months getting over 5 was from the back end actually for us. So for the first thing, we have an OG product, an info product that we did, tens of millions selling, and we were sunsetting that community and pushing them over now into the one-to-one high ticket. We did a win-back campaign for anybody who had exited the product, any of the product offerings, to basically push them back at a discounted rate. And what that allowed us to do is because you don't have acquisition or you don't have any of the acquisition. You don't have marketing or the sales because they're sold through the back end. So it's just fulfillment costs. So we were able to discount the price and still make great margin by selling people who had already bought the product and were no longer in it, and then basically re-enter them in there. Renewal flash sale, that is for anyone who is active. So we were allowing basically a 1, 2, and 3 year extensions at a slight discounted rate. Again, all it has is fulfillment cost on it. So very profitable as well as being able to do a lot of volume and revenue and cash collected. Community launch. This was basically like a function of this renewal flash. So we were launching new brand faces, these ones I'm talking about here, also to the community. We're making a really big push to kind of build around community. If you follow me on X, I post the books and all the stuff we're trying to learn, but where we can find spots in activation connects, make the community stronger, do all that. So a big portion of this actually came from here. And we did our first version of a webinar internal to community, basically as hype, more community launch, community brand faces launch, and then a function of that was the renewal flash sale. All right. So this was millions that came in here that equaled out into here. Finance ops side, this, like I said, source of truth is feeding a lot of this. So we began to custom build. So there's a lot of different new things in here that these kind of dance in one, and I almost like interchangeably use these because I do both of them, or that was kind of like my world forever. Now we have rock stars that lead this, so I'm not saying I do them in that way. All of this right here was because of the team. We just set the ship in the direction at some level, but they completely executed, and we're the ones who actually did this. So custom build of all the source of truth and tech, and then we were going to hire into this for finance, and then we just realized at this point the more important piece is this source of truth and this data piece, because we can do all the reporting we need, and then this is to come. So it's actually going to be more of a Q4 thing. So I'll do another video on that later, but let's use some math. So I don't think you guys can probably see this, or let's just do this. Let's do this. All right, so hopefully you can see this. So this is what we rolled into the month with, being like, all right, so if we want to do 5 million in new, here's what needs to happen. Blue is all the inputs. There's 31 days in the month. Let's use August for this. What is your AOV for your 30-day new cash? So basically, what's the new 30-day cash? Let's say it's $5,500. What's your average close rate? Let's say it's 30%. What's your actual show rate? Let's say it's 55%. What is the average rep cash collected across a month, across all of your reps? Let's say it's 120K. What are the average bookings that a rep takes in a month? And this is more so like, what's their average availability, not necessarily how many do they take, but kind of like same as them. But let's say it's 100. Depending if you have 30-minute calls, hour-long calls, slots, buffers, you got to be able to know this. App to booking ratio, Jeremy's going to tell me I'm an idiot, and it should be 100%. Let's just say it's 75% on this. What's your opt to app? Let's say that's opt to app. Let's say it's 25%. And your average cost per booking, let's say is $150. Okay, now, in order to do that and hit 5 million based on all these variables, that would mean that you need 900 new clients, okay? Because 909 new clients is going to take your average AOV, right, across here. Oops, I'm just breaking everything. That would mean you need 3,000 live calls, then closed at 30%. It would mean you need 5,500 calls booked. Let's say you had a 75% show rate. You'd only need 4,000 calls. Okay, so see all these different variables come into here. Now, this is how many reps you would need based on if this is their average cash collected. You need 42 reps. Now, if you have killer reps, you'd only need 25 reps. Okay, but if they're like this and they're lesser, if they take an insane amount of calls, less reps. Now, your daily breaks down to this. No ifs, ands, or buts around this. You need 161K a day cash collected across 31 days in order to do 5 million, right? Like, that's the math. How many new clients on day? You need 29, showed all this. So this is what we rolled into it knowing, and then also knowing kind of like where we can expect ROAS to land. Like this, so these are not our numbers, obviously, with this. But to be like realistic on here, let's say this was 7K. Let's say this was 25. Let's say this was 60. 120, 150, app to booking, 60, opt to app, 25, average cost per booking. Say you absolutely just nuked it and had terrible costs, right? 2 million or 2x still. So these are kind of some of the equations you can play with, and you have to know how to build these in order, like, they're so simple. They're so simple, but like this is how you can forecast out, and like a way that we looked at it. And then the other thing is when we're like, oh cool, we're also going to layer in some functions of backend money. The thing with backend money is no longer need it on the front. So if you're going to be able to pull $1 million from the back in renewals or pay plans or any type of thing or another offering or whatever, and you only need to do 3 million on the front, then you'd only need 25 reps, 19 if it was based on booking volume, and you'd clean this up, right? So all the things, all the levers that you can play with, but this is basically how we kind of mapped it out in order to know really kind of where we need to target for spend, really where we need to target for headcount in terms of closers, how many bookings we need to generate, stuff like that. It was just kind of like a quick napkin math version, and we used something like this, okay? And again, these are all not our numbers, so don't think that we're over here pulling 7x ROAS, and don't scale if you're not at 7x, but I was just showing you examples of when you play with some of these other levers, all right? So that's what I got, guys. So we won our bet. We kind of bloated, got into it as expected. We're now going to have a bit of a dip because now we're going to go for like profit maxing season. Not to say we're not hammering it and still doing stuff, but we are pulling down in order to tighten things, then pull back up, which was completely expected, and that was literally the goal. But we just had to just prove that we could do it. So prove that we could do it. We pulled it out. Feels good. But that's that. YouTube, I'm at, 9.9 or something like that. And all the videos are here. If you guys want, I'm going to do more Q&As because those are fun. And it's here. Oops. So if you want to pop in the request, you can feel free to ask any questions. But I appreciate you guys. Sorry I've been quiet for a little bit. I'm building some new things, but in the meantime, we're doing this. And yeah, so any questions, comments, anything, drop a 19 in the comments if you made it this far. Hopefully this was helpful to get some eyes on how we kind of like look at things across these different departments. if you want to drop some either questions in that request box or in the comments on some topics you want me to talk about, I'd be happy to. So appreciate you guys. Been a minute. Sorry, a little rusty on these, but we'll get right back into it. Talk soon.